Welcome everyone. Today we have a quick guide for Wolcen. This time I'm going to look at source of damage and how do you trigger different alignments with your spells and your attack spells. So firstly, we had a question from Juiced asking what is material damage. So there's three types of damage because there's three types of resistant type. First one is material, which has effects of physical, toxic and rend. If you have items that adds towards rend or physical damage, having high material damage will amplify those. Followed by that, if you have high elemental damage and some things that give you percentage elemental damage, this boosts fire, frost and lightning. Occult damage is going with Ether, secret and also shadow. So different things boost different factors. For this particular weapon, we get 180% material damage. Because it's a physical weapon, this really helps me to deal more damage. And followed by that, what we want to look for is how do you fix and how do you have a particular alignment on your attack spells. And then we look into the spells. So attack spells are the ones that spend rage. For example here, I have my Winds of Asher and also my Bleeding Edge is always bleeding by the way. My Winds of Asher, and also if I show you a different spell, I'll show you my Blade Storm. Yeah, those two are good examples. So I don't need this one. So if I show you my Winds of Asher and also my Blade Storm, both of them are having the freeze alignment. Why is that? Because if you look at your physical damage, which is made up, right now everything that adds towards flat attack counts towards the weapon damage. Physical damage does not have any alignments. Toxic, rend, frost all have different alignments, which are showed over here. So toxic goes with poison, rend goes with bleeding, and ice goes with freeze. The highest elemental or highest alignment damage on your weapon or on yourself totally will determine what debuff you have on the enemy. Here my highest damage other than physical is actually frost, because this is 188 goes to 281. The lowest one, I think that's what it counts. So you can see that I have the freeze alignment. But what if I remove the ring that gives me force damage? I take it off, I have 0 frost. What do you reckon is going to happen? It's going to go down to rend, I believe. There you go. It went on to rend. Now my Winds of Asher and all my Blade Storm now gives rend, which is bleeding, because this turns out to be the second highest, or the highest. And if I take the rend damage away, well, that's going to left with toxic. If I have toxic, that means I have alignments of poison. We'll have alignments of poison here as well. So how would this help us? Two factors. One of the factor is sometimes you might want to have multiple debuffs. You can go with double alignments. That means if here I have double alignments, I can debuff enemies with both frost and rend. Or I can take the rend off, I can debuff enemies with frost and toxic. Frost allows you to freeze enemies. Toxic, let's have a look here. Toxic allows you to deal damage over time and bleed, just bleeds the enemies out. There's factors that you can lifesteal on bleeding units, which is really good on the bleeding edge. That's what I'm using. I stopped using Blade Storm because it's less bursty for me. So bleeding edge is about twice as hard hitting as the Blade Storm for me. And there's also really good alignments you want to look into. For example, Cursed is a good one. Cursed is Shadow. If you have high shadow based damage, you will curse the enemy and they will take additional damage from you. Followed by that, Weakness allows you to reduce the damage enemy puts and makes you less likely to get burst and killed. After that, Stasis. This is a very common one, you hear me say it all the time. This one slows enemy movement and attacks, and what it does is it goes very well hand in hand into this spell, which cannot be healed, or which time cannot heal. This allows you to do double damage when enemies debuff with status, and this double damage kind of works over time after 1.5 seconds. And this is the bread and butter of our ranger build with 500k crits and very good survivability. So that's some of the reasons you will want alignments. The best way to do it is to socket different attack gems and guarantee yourself to have the highest attack alignments that you want. Of course, if I don't have anything that's great, I would like to have Frost. Having the freeze effect allows me to stun enemies for 1.5 seconds. And who doesn't want to stun enemies? But if you have bleeding, what you can look for is there's a bleeding lifesteal, which gives 4% lifesteal on bleeding targets. It's okay, but it does take 2 points, so it's kind of optional for me, because I have lots of other lifesteal points. So, this is when you actually deal with attack spells. What if you're going for the magic spells? So yes, here we have a character that have unlocked the perk with the additional alignment, and we also unencrypt everything on the character because we can't actually see the spell additional flat damage. We can see the physical one very easily, we can't see the spell one. So if you look at the current existing spells, for example, if you look at Lips, if you look at, if you look at the Consuming Embers, we have the burn stacks because they're naturally fire spells. The Attic Spear is a free spell. Now we're supposed to get 2 alignments on the spells now. In order to do so, we're going to have an item that gives us shadow to spells. So here we have shadow damage added to spells. And what this allows us to do is, this we can't see anywhere on the board, but if we go back to the spells, you can see we have a curse alignment added to this freeze. We have a curse alignment added to fire to burning. So now we have 2 alignments. In order to make sure your spells have 2 alignment, make sure your highest source of flat damage of spell power, over here it's the shadow damage, make sure this is the highest. I recommend going for shadow damage because most spells can proc multiple times, because as a mage you have high wisdom. Usually most of mage might have high wisdom. Spells trigger multiple times, and the curse spell is actually the best one because it increases the damage the enemy takes. And also, if you're a curse mage like me, if you went for the perk that actually increases damage the enemy takes after getting cursed, over here the occasional damage increased by 5% for each curse stack, and it goes further with another 2%, so 7% with each stack. You can increase your damage. Look how many stacks we have. We have 30 stacks. So you can increase your damage by 210%. 300%. Yeah, 210% additional damage. So for spells, make sure your flat damage with spells is the one you want. But if you equip everything else, like the plus fire damage to spells, plus other damage to spells, this will increase your spell power, but it might change the alignment of your spells. So let me show you over here. So if I put those down, so now if I go back to my freeze spell, now my freeze burns. So now my freeze alignment, not only it freeze, it also burns the enemy because my highest spell base is actually fire. So there we go. It took us a while to figure this out, but if you like those guys, definitely subscribe onto YouTube, onto Majestic Multigaming. Say hi on Twitch if you can, and I'll be making more guides for you guys for Wolcen. Loving this game and discovering so many things with the help of friends. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you guys next time.